Did you guys see this? Meghan Markle announced that her As Ever product line sold out in under an hour. It's strange when you marry a prince and you're the breadwinner of the family. Meghan was excited while Prince Harry was like, what the hell am I going to do with 3,000 cases of wildflower honey? Hey, I read that to protest the Trump administration, a lot of Canadians are selling their winter homes in the U.S. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess in the winter, Canadians prefer the tropical climate of Buffalo.
Welcome back to Drama Diaries, where we break down the wildest stories Hollywood doesn't want you to miss. Today, we're diving into a bizarre headline that has everyone talking. Forget UFOs and conspiracy theories. The internet is obsessed with Meghan Markle's pretzel bag, and Hollywood comedians are tearing it apart. Yes, this is real. From Jimmy Fallon's roast to Sharon Osbourne's fury, from Golden Globe's shade to Ryan Reynolds, Conan, and even Tim Dillon piling on, the jokes are savage. But behind the laughs, this roast says a lot about where Meghan and Harry stand in Hollywood. Stick around because we're breaking down every jab, every punchline, and the brutal message hidden in all the laughter. If you live for celebrity chaos, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Jimmy Fallon kicked things off, and oh my God, he did not hold back. He zoomed straight in on Meghan Markle's now famous pretzel bag, and he turned it into a full comedy bit. Picture this: Fallon on stage, acting like Meghan was performing the most sacred royal duty in history, carefully moving pretzels from one bag to another. He exaggerated every step, pretending she was holding the crown jewels, when really, it was just pretzels. The audience lost it. People were howling, clapping, and you could feel the energy shift. Meghan wasn't being protected anymore. She was being roasted like any other celebrity. And Fallon didn't just stop at the bag. He layered it. He said Meghan made it look like a whole diplomatic mission, like she was solving world hunger with a couple of salted snacks. He painted the image of her walking through the palace halls, handing out pretzels like peace offerings. And the thing is, that's the kind of joke that sticks. It's simple, it's visual, and it makes Meghan look ridiculous every time someone thinks about it. That's how reputations shift in Hollywood, one bag of pretzels at a time. But then Fallon pivoted, and this is where it got brutal. He dragged Harry into the mess, because apparently, Meghan's not the only one with a quirky little side hustle. Fallon looked straight into the camera and said, 3,000 jars of wildflower honey. Really, Harry? What's the plan? Open an Etsy store? And the crowd? Done. People were laughing so hard some couldn't breathe. It was savage because Harry's honey business was already getting side-eye online, and Fallon just stamped it with late-night approval. Think about it. This is Prince Harry, once one of the most famous royals in the world, a man who fought in Afghanistan, a man who walked behind Diana's coffin at just 12 years old. And now, Jimmy Fallon has reduced him to a guy hawking homemade honey on Etsy. That is a fall from grace, and it's exactly why the joke landed so hard. The audience wasn't just laughing at the line, they were laughing at the bigger story. The image of Harry and Meghan, who left the royal family for freedom and independence, now reduced to snacks and honey jars. And here's the bigger problem for Meghan and Harry. Late-night television used to be their safe zone. Remember when they were painted as the victims, the rebels standing up to the palace machine? Hosts used to celebrate them, clap for them, defend them. But when Fallon feels comfortable clowning you this openly, it means the tide has shifted. They're no longer the underdogs. They're punchlines. They've lost the cultural upper hand, and comedians can smell that weakness from a mile away. And if Jimmy Fallon was just the warm-up act, then brace yourself. Because the next punches, they came from the Osbournes. And they didn't just tease, they attacked. Kelly and Sharon Osbourne didn't just criticize Harry and Meghan. They went nuclear. Kelly was the first to fire, and she didn't mince words. She called Prince Harry a whining complainer, dragging him for turning every interview into a pity party. And then she twisted the knife, saying he fumbled the bag. That's Hollywood code for you had it all, the power, the privilege, the fame, and you blew it. And coming from Kelly Osbourne, that hits different. Because the Osbournes know chaos. Their family's been through drug battles, rehab stints, explosive fights, and scandals that played out on TV for the whole world to see. If anyone knows dysfunction, it's them. So when they call you out for whining, that says everything. But it was Sharon Osbourne who really took the gloves off. She zeroed in on Meghan Markle's infamous curtsy story, the one where Meghan mocked bowing to the Queen. Sharon wasn't having it. She called it disrespectful, childish, a complete fantasy cooked up for laughs. Then she went after the hand-holding, Meghan and Harry's constant clutching at each other, even on red carpets. Sharon called it performative intimacy, not love. In her words, it's an act for the cameras, not real affection. And then came the big one. Sharon slammed Harry's memoir, Spare, saying it wasn't healing, it was monetizing trauma. Every painful memory, every family wound, packaged and sold to Netflix, to book buyers, to Spotify. For Sharon, that wasn't bravery. That was exploitation. And here's where it got personal. Sharon brought up her own past. Her father, a ruthless music manager, stole millions from her, ruined her trust, and left scars that would last a lifetime. But Sharon said she found a way to forgive him, to move forward, even after betrayal on that scale. Her point was brutal. If she could forgive her father after he took her money and her peace of mind, then what excuse do Meghan and Harry have for turning every grievance into a public cash grab? Next to real family struggles, Sharon made Meghan and Harry look small, petty, weak. And the thing is, people listened. The Osbournes may be messy, but they've survived real war zones inside their own family. So their critique doesn't sound like trolling, it sounds like experience. And for Meghan and Harry, that's the most dangerous kind of criticism, because it rings true. If the Osbournes sounded harsh, just wait, because once the comedians got involved, it went from brutal to downright humiliating. Hollywood piled on, and the Golden Globes set the tone. Joe Coy walked out on that stage and delivered a line that hit like a hammer. Harry and Meghan paid millions for doing nothing, and that's just by Netflix. The room cracked up, and you could see the cameras pan across Hollywood royalty laughing at the Sussexes' expense. That's the kind of burn you don't recover from, because it wasn't whispered gossip, it was a joke delivered in front of the entire industry. Then came Family Guy. They animated Harry and Meghan as lazy influencers, sitting around cashing checks and doing fast food endorsements. Picture them slouched on a couch, trading royal dignity for burger commercials. It was brutal, but it stuck, because animation has a way of exaggerating the truth people already suspect. And fans didn't just laugh. They nodded along, like, yeah, that's exactly who they've become. Jimmy Carr joined the pile-on too. He took aim at Meghan specifically, calling out the irony of her branding herself as a lifelong feminist, only to marry a prince and then walk away from her career entirely. The joke landed because it cut through the image she's built. And then Bill Moyer twisted the knife with his classic cynicism. "We don't want attention," he said in Harry's voice, before mocking. Now, here's my book about it. The audience roared because the hypocrisy was just too easy to see. And that's the real danger. These aren't just Twitter trolls or random YouTubers. These are A-list comedians, late-night icons, and primetime award show hosts. When they don't hold back, it means the public has given permission to laugh at you. Meghan and Harry aren't setting the narrative anymore. They're not the victims or the rebels. They're the recurring punchline. And once that happens in Hollywood, you've lost control of your image. But the most unexpected roast didn't come from late night or award shows. It came from Ryan Reynolds and Conan O'Brien, and their shots might have stung the most. Tim Dillon didn't dance around it. He said Meghan Markle isn't selling jam. She's selling status. His take was blunt. People don't actually care about the product. They care about what it represents. Nobody's dropping hundreds on a tiny jar of strawberry preserve because it tastes better. They're paying because it feels exclusive. It signals that you're part of some elite lifestyle club, like owning a Gucci bag or sipping champagne at a private event. Meghan knows that. Her whole play is about packaging herself as the brand, then slapping that aura onto something ordinary. Jam becomes luxury. A tote bag becomes aspiration. A honey jar becomes heritage. Dylan went further, saying, "This is how the elite have always operated. They sell belonging, not utility." And Meghan's savvy enough to realize that slapping her name and Montecito on a label is the shortcut. You're not buying fruit and sugar. You're buying the fantasy of being in her world, of brushing against royalty, of living that curated Instagram life. And in theory, it's smart. It's how luxury houses and influencers make fortunes. But here's the twist. It's not landing, because instead of seeing sophistication, audiences see pretension. They see a former actress turn Duchess hawking overpriced jam like it's liquid gold. They don't feel invited into an exclusive circle. They feel mocked for not being in it already. And once people smell that kind of elitism, it doesn't matter how clever the branding is. The perception turns sour. And that's the real danger. In Hollywood, once you're labeled pretentious, you stop being aspirational. You stop being inspirational. Instead, you get turned into a meme, a roast, a running joke. And for Meghan, that's exactly what's happening. Because when the industry sees you as pretentious, they don't buy your brand. They turn you into content. Meghan and Harry's Hollywood dreams are collapsing fast, and the receipts are brutal. Spotify pulled the plug on Archewell Audio, calling them out for delivering almost nothing. Netflix? Their big projects underperformed, barely making a splash compared to the hype. And the products, the jam, the honey, the lifestyle branding, instead of being luxury must-haves, they've turned into comedy props, punchlines for late-night hosts and TikTok memes. And here's the core issue. Meghan and Harry don't actually sell creativity. They sell drama. Every dollar they've made has been tied to conflict with the palace, to interviews, to memoirs, to whisper campaigns about betrayal. Without royal drama, there is no business model, and that's the danger. Because once the public gets tired of the sob stories, the spotlight fades. They're not seen as storytellers anymore. They are the story, and not in a flattering way. So where does this all lead? Looking ahead, the big question is, what's next for Meghan and Harry? Because right now, it feels like they're standing at a crossroads with no clear direction. The most obvious path is the one they've already been walking. Keep milking the royal drama. Another documentary, another sit-down interview, another book dripping with palace secrets. That strategy works in the short term. It grabs headlines, drives sales, gets clicks. But here's the reality. The public eventually tunes out. People can only hear the same story so many times before it loses its power. And for Meghan and Harry, once the royal scandal well runs dry, what's left? Their second option is a pivot. And this is where things get interesting. Meghan could try to reinvent herself the way Gwyneth Paltrow did with Goop. Think wellness products, lifestyle branding, curated luxury tied to her name. If she can pull that off, the overpriced jam and honey might not just be punchlines. They could become the building blocks of a long-term empire, something that goes beyond the tabloids and actually makes money. But here's the challenge. Gwyneth succeeded because people saw her as quirky, aspirational, even a little tongue-in-cheek. Meghan? Right now, she's seen as pretentious. If she can't flip that perception, every product she launches will just be more fuel for comedians. And then there's the darker scenario, burnout. Hollywood is fickle. Right now, Meghan and Harry still generate clicks and content, but that attention can vanish overnight. If the deals dry up, the projects flop, and the scandals stop selling, their wealth starts to erode. The glamorous Montecito lifestyle costs money, big money. Without constant controversy to monetize, the machine collapses. That's when Hollywood drops them. That's when the public loses interest. And that's when Meghan and Harry risk fading into irrelevance. Not as royals, not as power players, but as another celebrity couple who couldn't hold on. And here's the real kicker. Their entire survival depends on keeping controversy alive. The very thing that made them relevant. The drama, the tell-alls, the shocking interviews is the same thing burning their credibility to the ground. Every time they cash in on trauma, every time they trade another secret for a paycheck, they reinforce the idea that they're not creators. They're opportunists. And in the long run, that image is poison. You can make money from scandal, sure, but you can't build respect. And once credibility is gone, no amount of honey, jam, or luxury branding can buy it back. So where does this leave them? At the mercy of an audience that's laughing more than it's listening. At the mercy of an industry that's turned them from Hollywood stars into Hollywood content. They're not writing the story anymore. They are the story. And that's a dangerous place to be. From pretzel bags to artisan jam, Meghan and Harry have officially become comedy's favorite target. The question now is bigger than products, bigger than contracts. Are they building a brand or destroying their credibility? Are they carving out a future empire? Or are we watching the slow-motion collapse of everything they thought they left the palace to build? What do you think? Will Meghan and Harry eventually go broke? Or do you think they've got one last reinvention left in them? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading them. And if you want more royal drama breakdowns, don't forget to subscribe to Drama Diaries. Because this saga, it isn't slowing down anytime soon.